Gentleman from Richmond City, Ms. McClellan. We're
Thank you,
speaking to
Mr.
amendments
Speaker.
1, 2, 3, and 5.
Yeah, speaking to the amendments. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I guess, I understand the gentleman from Henrico is more of an expert on financial matters than I'm just a lawyer. But as I understand the way tax credits work, tax credits do take money out of the general fund. And as I understand it, the only way there's a net positive would be in a situation where if you take all of the kids out of a single school and they're all going to a private school. And I guess as I see this, you have tax credits going to corporations for scholarships that will be spread all over the Commonwealth of Virginia for individual students. When you take that one child out of school, and let me just take an example. In my district, you've got, and I've got a lot of schools. Let's take Carver Elementary. Probably, if a child in Carver Elementary gets a scholarship to go to private school, and that child is the only child in Carver Elementary.
Parliamentary inquiry.
Let me state it.
Is the gentle lady speaking to the amendments that are before us, or is she speaking to the bill in general?
Well, Mr. Speaker, I am responding. The gentleman from Henrico, in defending the amendments, discussed how they would be, and the bill as a whole, would be a net positive to the state coffers in rebutting the other gentleman from Henrico. And I am responding to that.
I think the gentle lady is correct.
If that one child gets a tax credit, gets a scholarship to go to private school and leaves Carver Elementary, that does not change the amount of money needed to run Carver Elementary. That does not change the amount of money that is needed to try to ensure that all of the other children left in Carver Elementary can get a high-quality, free public education that ideally would be on par with what that child is leaving to get. Now, in this part, I am going to speak to the whole bill because some of you may think that these amendments make this bill better, but you can't really make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. And there are some of us who are very concerned. We are not funding K-12 education today to the levels we were in 2007. Over the years since the Great Recession, we made cuts to K-12 education that had direct impacts to our schools, particularly in low-income areas, where that education is needed the most to be a great leveler so that those kids have the same opportunities as other kids aren't lucky enough to get a scholarship to go to private school. And until we are funding K-12 to the level necessary so that all of our children have access to an equal education, I don't feel comfortable taking money out of the general fund to fund tax credits to pick winners and losers, which is basically what we're trying to do. I'd also remind you that there are some in this Commonwealth who remember the day, some people who voted against this bill, who remember the day when the Commonwealth of Virginia paid for students to go to private school so that they wouldn't have to go to integrated schools. Or, wait a minute, I want you to hear this, because we cannot escape our history, and people have long memories, and for a lot of people out in the community, because I talk to them every day, part of their discomfort with this bill, whether it's intentional or not, this reminds them too much of vouchers, and they view this as the first step to going back to vouchers. Now, I don't doubt that probably none of you on that side of the aisle have that intention. There are a lot of people who remember those days who are uncomfortable with this public policy. In the Commonwealth of Virginia, our Constitution says that every child has a right to a free, high-quality public education. And we have attempted, or should be attempting, to ensure they all get it. And if there are schools that are struggling and schools where they're not, we need to focus on what needs to happen to raise those schools up. Not pick winners and losers to say which child from Carver Elementary will be lucky enough to go to private school when we're not addressing what we need to do for the rest. And that is why I don't support any of these amendments, and I don't support the bill as a whole. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.